Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange Podcast. Stories by leaders for leaders to help you raise the bar on your own excellence, to release the potential inside of you. Now, here's today's podcast. Welcome to this edition of the Nonprofit Exchange. We have, as always, we have special people, but these people are really special because they invited me to participate in the foundational strategy building for their vision for bringing amazing resources to others. So I want to introduce these two people. Russell, hello. Say hello from Denver, Colorado.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood here, and great to be here with Mark and Mitzi. And I'm looking forward to a wonderful chat today. They're doing great work here.
Russell and I co-host this, and we have some fascinating conversations with people that are doing amazing things. So this particular chain of interviews is about people who are doing real things in the real world. And the ones we've done previously have been organizations that have been in existence for a while. This one is a young organization, but they're really making some traction. They're doing some really good stuff. So I wanted to interview them about how they got started and what kind of traction they're making and what their plans are and how they impact people's lives. So Mark, let's start with Mark Hattas, and then you tell us a little bit about your journey, who you are and why you're doing this, and then throw it to Mitzi, let her introduce herself and her role in this. So welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange, Mark.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great to be here with both of you, good friends, and Mitzi. My journey's dream, or one of them. One of the things that I had the pleasure of doing early in my career is I built and sold a tech company. And about 9 months after that, I had a very unique experience where I started experiencing the world much differently than I had previously, and went into what's commonly called mania. I was diagnosed bipolar I and was in and out of the hospital for 3 times over a 3-year period, and was told right away that I would not get well and I would be on medication the rest of my life. And the most we know about the brain we learned in the 1990s, and kind of the world of psychology and stuff was still navigating what was really going on. It was unsettling to leave the hospital with that kind of prognosis, and it was inspired maybe 2 months after that, after I had an unusual experience where I was terrified that I was going to have to live my life with my brain in the mode that it was in. So I started to seek solutions, and thank God there were solutions out there. There are amazing practitioners, amazing resources, and I applied them, I practiced them, and I got well. So for over 3 years, I've been off all medication and have been very healthy. And over that course of a period of time, I met Mitzi and her husband Rex and her daughter Brea, and learned about what was happening in their life. And we joined together to start what's called Hattas International Foundation, which its project is called Journey's Dream, to help those with mental health challenges find resources and get to a place where they could really believe again that they could get well, and then have the strength and fortitude and the tools to start to go out and navigate their health and well-being and the best support mechanisms that could serve them. And so we're a hub that creates that environment, and we're still building, but we've had some great traction so far. Mitzi?
My name is Mitzi Montague-Bauer, and my son Journey became symptomatic in his senior year at University of Michigan. And at first we just thought it was his quirky behavior or something. We really didn't understand the magnitude of what was happening until he graduated and came home. He was diagnosed with, he had several diagnoses, actually didn't present the same way each time. And so the first doctors thought he had schizophrenia, and after that he was diagnosed with bipolar and depression and somatic disorder, and a lot of them actually. And he was told the same thing that Mark was told, that he would not get well and there was no cure, and that the best we could hope for was to manage his symptoms, and that would be with a lifetime of medication. I didn't want to believe that. I didn't believe it, and it seemed that the more he heard it, the more he began to believe it. During that time, I spent just countless hours looking for the solutions that we now know are available, but they were difficult to find. And I spent a lot of time searching for any solution, really, that had a different prognosis. I think that by the time I felt confident with the solutions and the collection of modalities that I had collected, Journey was no longer interested. In the beginning, he was open to help. He wanted help. But by the time I felt like I had the answers, he had isolated himself, and I didn't seem to trust anyone. And so it became apparent to me that if we had had these solutions in the beginning, perhaps there would have been a different outcome. Journey, after 3.5 years of struggling with his mental health and being told he would not get well, he stepped off a building and ended his life. So because of the lack of, the solutions were there, but they were difficult to find, and there wasn't really one place to find them. The vision that we share is that there would be a place that if a family member or a loved one or someone who was struggling landed on our site, that they would have a whole solution, a whole collection of solutions, possibilities, and to meet them where they were. And those solutions could be medication. Certainly there's a place for medication, and a whole slew of other opportunities. So.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really an important message. So Mark, just to declare that Center Vision has been working with this project from the onset, and we started putting together the pieces actually in Mitzi's basement with Mitzi, her husband, and her daughter, and you and me. And we worked really hard for a couple of days, just kind of getting our head around what this looks like. That was not really the starting point, but it was the launch point where you were able to then say, we're doing this for real and we're moving ahead. Why did you decide to put this in the framework of a tax-exempt charity?
Well, so there are, I built a for-profit organization, and when I started to learn about the power of the tax-exempt organizations, it allows for people to give to a cause that they believe in the way that they can, and have tax benefits. So it gives people an opportunity to donate funds, provide in-kind services. For example, there's an organization helping us with our technology for our practitioner network, and they're donating all the framework and developing it even. So that would cost us quite a lot of money otherwise. And because it's for the greater good of the broader population, we didn't really see a need for any one of us or any group to own it. We wanted it to be available for all, and we're the stewards of it. So we really looked at, from the beginning, this organization being something that's a gift to all of those people who were in a situation like Journey's situation, a situation like my situation, and the many that exist out there. Tax exempt just made a whole lot of sense. And when we spoke with Sharita Herring, she helped us kind of get that set up, and then re-educated me, retooled my brain along with you on what the power of tax exempt is and how much funding is actually out there and available and support. So we took advantage of your expertise and knowledge to set this up right from the beginning.
And there's a lot of power in philanthropic giving, both in individual donors. And we were on a call with Sarita last night. She's one of our partners in Center Vision, and actually she helped me create my foundation years ago. So she's sort of the queen of nonprofit information. She knows the right stuff, and of course we've been on a journey equipping the culture to then step up to where you need to be. And I've been impressed with how systematic you've been. You've not tried to short cycle anything. You've taken things in stride, in sequence, and really let the different stages of this play out and mature without cutting it short. So I commend you for that. So many people starting organizations like this want to get there and want to get it done. And they really leave a lot of stuff in the garbage on the side of the road on the way. So you've been very systematic in developing this. So I commend you for that. I know, Russell, I know a little more about this because I've been involved with him for a year and a half. So we decided we work together for 365 non-contiguous days. So it's been a pace that's been very logical. Mark, you've created some programs and you've done some beta tests on the program. So talk a little bit about who those programs are for and the impact that program has had and will have on people's lives.
Yeah, so the intent long-term is to have a whole hub of many programs, and we have a few through affiliate partners, but we also, one of the things that we co-created with Ruka Group is a program called the Optimal Being Program. And the Optimal Being Program is absolutely by far the core of what I did to navigate the brain dynamics that were spinning around in me and get to a place where I could start to navigate the world in a more healthy way. There's three things that occur in the Optimal Being Program. One, the awakening of the inner guidance system. And it's really incredible that every human being innately has an inner guidance system, but so many people have conflicts within it, and they have programming that has them doing things on automatic decision making that's not really constructive for their life. So what this does is it helps to soften that, release those beliefs and ideas that aren't really serving us anymore, and get to a place where the inner guidance system is listened to and it comes alive in us, and it really leads us to what's optimal for us. You know, Mitzi mentioned, hey, sometimes medication's really the optimal thing for someone in the beginning stages. And so go for it and do it and listen to those doctors, believe the diagnosis they give you, but don't believe the prognosis if they're not telling you that you can get well. And so allowing for that inner guidance system to come on gives people confidence. It gives them courage, and it's a healthy courage, and it realigns their personal code of decision making from one that could be negative and destructive to one that's always constructive. So that's a key thing with the Optimal Being Program. Another thing that happens there is community. There's people that come together that are also going through life's challenges. And so to learn these tools together and to come to a community where people are in a like situation or like-minded, they're seeking solutions, that accelerates everyone's health and well-being. And ideas are shared in there that, the facilitators may have never thought of, but one of the, people who is participating is contributing, as well. So people are both giving to the group and they're receiving from the group, because it's a combination of self-instructional program as well as a weekly online part of the program too. And the other thing is there's metrics. So at the beginning of the Optimal Being program, we allow someone to go into 10 categories of their human behavior. And these are things that are like self-love, and how is that going for someone? And if love of self is really low, or maintaining love while thinking about themselves is really low, there's some tools that we teach to support increasing that. The maintaining love while thinking of others, maintaining love while actually approaching truth. And so there's 10 of these categories. And so we measure that in the beginning. And then at the end of the 13-week program online, we measure it again. And it's fascinating to see how dramatic people change. And these are core human development skills that can be taught to a 5th grader or even younger. But when someone integrates them into their life, whenever they face something that's a challenge, instead of going to historical patterns of coping mechanisms, they start to have tools that are foundational human tools to start to realize what potential lies within them and have it start to come out into the world. And the transformations we've seen in corporate leaders, people who thought they were actually doing fine, but they wanted to get to the next level, and people who have had challenges is just profound.
So it's not for just people who are having, I don't know how to title it, but severe emotional issues. It's not just for people in that profile.
No. I mean, it could be, someone's going through a breakup in a relationship and they're sad. It could be a loss of a loved one and they're, going through that grieving process. It could be any number of things that creates in someone the desire to seek something where they're going to feel better. And when people feel better and they get to that place of a joyous, and Mitzi knows well about this too, they get to that joyous place in life, one of the things that starts to occur is their life kind of self-perpetuates itself in a positive direction. And so we want to help people navigate through that. And we teach our opposite of the way that they were taught in the world, when they were growing up. And so it's like a rewiring a bit of some of the processes that they had been using. And Mitzi, I don't know if you want to add anything, to that part.
Gosh, I think you did a beautiful job summarizing.
So Mark, what's the name of that program?
It's called the Optimal Being program.
B-E-A-N?
B-E-I-N-G, like someone who's being.
It's my age and mental condition, sorry.
B-E-I-N-G. It also, and we've got, tools and technologies. There's an app online, that's actually free. People could go download. If they do a search on their phone on Ruka Group, they'll find the Optimal Being app. It's a powerful app that helps to heal relationships with the commitments tool and to practice maintaining love and their breathing properly as they face a challenging situation.
Would you spell Ruka?
That alone is healing.
Spell Ruka.
R-O-O-K-H-A.
R-O-O-K-H-A.
Correct.
Okay.
Ruka. You might be able to type in Optimal Being and get it at this point too. It's been up there long enough. I think you could type in either one.
Optimal Being. O-P-T-I-M-A-L-B-E-I-N-G. Okay.
Yes.
So Mark, this is not coaching. It's not counseling. It's not therapy.
Nope.
What is it?
We're kind of like a group of people who've been there and have navigated this, and so we're educated mentors. I'm someone who has gone into it and out of it, and so I have, when someone does that, they develop a certain set of skills that can support others in getting to a place of hope. I don't think anybody in our organization, Mitzi, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that every single person in our organization, we see the human beingness in a person, and never have we seen any kind of diagnosis and some kind of illness, because it's just not the way we look at it. We look at it more like, there's a great analogy of the caterpillar to butterfly, and imagine that the caterpillar goes into the chrysalis and then everyone starts to say how awful they are because they don't look like a caterpillar anymore, and they're stupid, and they can't do this, and they can't do that, and the caterpillar is transforming. And if we suppress that transformation, we're going to have some funky looking caterpillars, right? If they didn't allow the chrysalis process, they're probably going to be angry and frustrated and, kind of grumpy, and eventually fall into depression because they're denying their natural, innate, transformative state. And when somebody actually goes into who it is they truly are, and they do it with the tools that exist in many different forms, we just happen to give them in a very, the way that we learned them. It supports someone having the courage to do what they're innately guided to do. That's why when I was mentioning the inner guidance system, it's just listening to yourself, but letting go of all the noise that was in the way, creating conflict within the person.
I love it. I love it. Mitzi,
Yes,
I've appreciated you on our team calls and our live work together. You ask really good questions when everybody else is letting it fly by and wondering what that meant. You say, wait a minute. So your attention to detail is very acute. But you always ask it in a very generous and kind way. Instead of, putting anybody down, you say, would you explain that again? Is it this or that? So first off, you talked about your son, and this project is named Journey's Dream. But why did you step up to want to be in this core team of 4 people? I guess it's 4 people. This core team of champions that are really making it happen. So talk about yourself, and then talk about the other 2 that aren't here, Rex and Brea.
Okay. Well, that inner guidance system that Mark was just talking about was what led me to be one of the founders. I, again, saw a deficit when you look at the mental health situation on the planet, and the suicide attempts and the actual suicides, and the message that people hear when they get a diagnosis is one that, we wonder why there's a stigma. But when you get that diagnosis, if you got a diagnosis of schizophrenia and you went home and Googled that, well, that would put you right into depression, I think. But you probably wouldn't want to talk about it. It's the prognosis is awful. And so I would love to see the core messaging changing around mental illness. I mean, what would have happened with Journey if he was told that he was in a transformational process, or that he could get well? And that's a different message for young people. And a lot of people who are experiencing these states of mania and what have you are brilliant. They're, on the genius spectrum. And so they're just navigating different things than we are. And I think if they had the tools that are available, there just would be a different outcome entirely. And so I was motivated by that, and because I was being guided to. And the other 2 founders are Rex Montague Bauer, my husband, and Journey's father. Rex and I have been students of these principles that are a lot of the core principles of the optimal being. We've been students for a while of that and do our best to practice those in our lives. Our daughter Brea is the 4th founder, Journey's sister, and she's just a brilliant human being, compassionate, and we're all kind of inspired by the same thing, to see a different outcome for people who receive a mental health diagnosis or who are just challenged in general.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's a high-functioning team. Y'all work really, really well together, and that's not the case for every team. Russell, I met Mark in the very first ever Center Vision Leadership Empowerment Symposium, and I think it was called Leadership Excellence then. It was in Chicago, and Mark met me at a CEO Space gathering the week or 2 before, and then he decided he'd sign up and come. And we got connected there, and then we had conversations, and he checked me out for about a year before he realized, he wanted to make sure it wasn't a flake and I was there to stay. But then we started working together. But we've had some very deep conversations over time, And I'm really a fan of Mark and Mitzi and the team, as well as what they're doing. So we've been on a journey ourselves, and Mark, thank you for inviting me on the journey. It's been a pleasure to be there with you, and it's touched me in many ways that I hadn't realized I could be touched. So it's been an important journey for me just to watch and participate. I want to see, Russell, what do you see in here that you want to comment on? And I'm sure you framed a couple of questions you'd like to throw back at our guests.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for coming here and sharing your story, because you got very powerful whys, and that's critical to everything. And the idea of paying it forward. And what we're talking about is raising our level of consciousness. And this is something that everybody can do. And there's a lot of power in interacting with people who get it. And there's a lot of fear and stigma around the idea of a mental diagnosis, but a diagnosis does not define you. And just looking at alternative complementary type solutions is very critical, because it's not all about popping a pill. It's about a mental and emotional and spiritual connection, and going within and finding that thing that is inside you that can make all things better. Now, to be fair, I think Hugh scared you off with see, Mark was probably in earshot when you let loose one of those age and mental condition things. That's probably you know, he does that every once in a while, but he's a brilliant man.
Thank you.
So you know, how did you and I know that you had a long journey to figuring out that the idea of raising your consciousness and being around other people who experience the same thing, how did you come to the conclusion that this was the actual solution? Tell me a little bit about how that journey took place.
Well, first, I don't know that it would be fair to say that it was the actual solution, meaning if you're referring to, are you referring to my own health or the creation of Journey's Dream?
Well, the creation of Journey's Dream as a way to move forward is really, and that's just kind of my term for it. Raising your level of consciousness is connecting with that in the part of you that's strong and valuable, and
so
has the power to transform you.
And I apologize, I misunderstood the question at first. So with regard to how do we discover that Journey's Dream is the solution? It goes back to trusting that inner guidance system and listening. You know, one of the things that we discovered along the way is we want to be very collaborative, you know, with other organizations. We want to be inclusive. We believe that there's a place for medication, and there's many organizations who've kind of gone through mental health recovery processes who are really against the medication. Like, if I didn't have the medication, I'm not sure that I'd still be here. So it served me well. While it served me, it was more that there was more, and it stopped serving me at some point in a way that I felt like I could really achieve my heart's desire. So we wanted to give people access to programs like Optimal Being Program, where they could tap in and tune in and get to that higher, as you said, consciousness that's going to optimally serve them, and give them other tools that could meet them where they are today. Because they may not be seeking that today. They might just be feeling really miserable and not want to get out of bed, and they would like to wake up one day and feel a little better. And so they're not seeking some lofty thing, but to them, that's very lofty, you know, to get back in touch with who is it that they really are and what is it they're really here to do. So we had a belief that if we as a group take care of the stuff that was in our system that was not going to serve Journey's Dream, that we would always know the optimal next step, and the optimal step we were in would have the proper attention and focus to be executed optimally. So like we just did an event in November at Soldier Field. Our first event ever was at Soldier Field in the Midway room there. And there were a couple hundred people there. But more than that, it was the DBSA, the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance, was there supporting this, and NAMI of DuPage and NAMI Metro. And they were bringing in, like NAMI Metro does stuff with the arts. Like, I'm not a big art kind of person, but to see what they're doing to give people who are struggling with mental health the opportunity to sing and play music and really explore what it is that's going on inside them in a different way, and that's extraordinary. And there was a faith-based counseling organization that came and supported called Samaricare, and I'm not going to necessarily remember them all right now, but they all came together in collaborative support to paint a vision. You know, there's a VA organization in Illinois joining forces that came, and the Illinois Department of Human Services was even there. That's unheard of in my world before that. You know, to see these groups come together and say, you know what, we're going to stand for something, which is we believe that there is a path for all people to get well. We may not know it today. There may not be a cookbook recipe that's on the shelf, but when we start to bring resources together and collaborate, that's when solutions can be found. That's when the optimal support can come out. And we had a half dozen practitioners that committed to come, and they spoke, and they changed people's lives just by letting people know that these doctors who see patients every day were telling them something different than what they had heard in the hospital, which is you can get well. And just to hear that from another doctor, all of a sudden, all their belief systems around what their condition is collapsed. They had to walk out of there with a remodeled and reconfigured belief system that, oh, well, if they say I can get well, then I can, right? That is a huge thing. And then we had a few celebrities there who were extraordinary too. I mean, David Stanley, who's Elvis Presley's brother, was there, sharing his story and the story of Elvis and the opioids and that process, and giving people hope, you know, that they can get to the other side of that, and his own depression and stuff that he's been going through. And the founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation talking about how he had PTSD early on in his career, and his partner he took his life. But because Frank Shankowitz dealt with it in a different way and found a solution for him, Make-A-Wish Foundation exists today. One of the most successful not-for-profits, and that was another reason we wanted him there, to let people know that, hey, there's hope for people struggling, but also we wanted him there to express that Journey's Dream might be at the beginning, just like Make-A-Wish was after he was going through his recovery process and had an opportunity to do something pretty cool. And these not-for-profit organizations can be run like real companies and provide real services, real value, create income streams that produce impact, that's huge. And I think Make-A-Wish is doing a few $100 million a year in their overall umbrella. That's the kind of organization we see building, a global organization that can have that impact. And that's why we hired Hugh, because if we're going to build a sustainable, real organization, we wanted someone who's been there, done that. And Hugh Ballou helps not-for-profits all over the planet, to do and set up for success. So if you've got something you really believe in and you have a passion behind it, trust yourself and hire the resources that are truly going to help you in your situation set up for success.
Well, thank you for that. I certainly had enough rehearsal doing this. Mark, Mitzi, tell people where they can go to find out more information.
Well, you can go to our website, which is journeysdream.org. That would be a good place to begin.
Plural, journeysdream.org. And what will people find there?
Well, they will find our website, which we are going through the process of making some changes to now as we've grown in the 4 months that we first launched the website. But they'll find a beginning of a practitioner's network. They'll find the optimal being and other resources that we are offering. And there will also be a place for practitioners. We're inviting practitioners to join us if they see fit. And so there's a place for practitioners and there's a place for family members or people who are struggling, looking for solutions. And so they'll see what solutions we have and they'll see the vision for what we have for our future.
And did you think when we were in your basement putting these little sticky things on the boards, this would go here in this period of time?
No, sir, I did not.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
One more thing, from a context standpoint, we've grown within a handful of weeks to over 600 followers on Facebook. So if you go to the Journey's Dream Facebook page and follow us, you'll be not only getting things about Journey's Dream, but things about mental health and really innovative approaches and solutions over time. So we encourage people to do that as well.
So what's next, Mark? What's next in your radar of accomplishments that are on, say, for 2018?
Well, so right now, in a week, December 4th, we're launching another Optimal Being program. And so anyone who's interested in that, it's a 13-week program, and you can go to the website under educational programs and click on Optimal Being. You'll be able to read more about it and sign up, register if you'd like. So that's one thing. 2018 is going to be a year of automating that program so we can get it to a lower cost, forming additional partners and building out the practitioner network, and building a fund so that people who can't get the kinds of care that insurance doesn't cover, that they can get some additional support in paying for those services. Because some of the services that I've had the benefit of, they don't take insurance. So we want to really educate people about those, but also be good stewards of funds that come in so that part of those funds get allocated to really address one of the biggest issues in mental health, which is it's really expensive to get the good care that is really going to help someone navigate their own life to a healthy state of being.
Awesome. So journeysdream.org. There's resources now, and there's resources that are coming, and the Facebook page is also called Journey's Dream.
Yes.
Okay. Russell, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking I love what you're doing. It's wonderful. And I'd like to say that I've looked at the website. There's something there for everyone who's been touched in some way with the mental diagnosis of a mental illness. You have to face that fear. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of stigma around that. But it's important to connect with people who get it. Mark and Mitzi get it. If it's you, if it's a loved one, go to journeysdream.org and get connected, talk with somebody. Happy Giving Tuesday, by the way, and it is Giving Tuesday. So take a few minutes after this broadcast to go to that site and plug in. If you do nothing else, subscribe to the email list, get the information, and give it a listen. Because a lot of the things that we see for solutions here, they're not the conventional things. They're not the things that people tell you, things like mindfulness. Some of this stuff might seem like it's touchy-feely, but it saves lives. Take a minute to consider something a little bit different than what you've been taught, because your life's on the line. These are folks who've been there and they get it. And it's facing that fear and knowing that, yeah, there are some other solutions, but they're only solutions if you take time to plug in and do it. So go to Facebook, go to the web, get plugged in, make a donation, sign up. This is a gift to give yourself and maybe a loved one for Giving Tuesday. So that's my 2 cents. Again, thank you so much, Mark and Mitzi, for what you're doing here, because you're saving lives. And this is going to grow beyond anything you ever imagined.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh.
Well, that's really good. I would like to ask you to think about a closing thought, and I'll ask Mitzi to go first, and then Mark. But while you're thinking over how you want to leave a closing impression, a closing challenge, a closing thought for people, our podcasts are made possible by our sponsors, our magazine, our website, and the company that prints nonprofit performance magazine is called WordSprint. Bill Gilmer and his team are champions. But if you run a charity, Bill's champion program for donor relations, maintaining those donor relationships is so key. They want to know what's happened to the money. And so Bill's long-time tested mailing program, people get something in the mail that lets them know what's happened as a result of their donation. And donations remain constant. They go up. People invite others to donate because of this. It's top of mind marketing, but it's really relationship building. So go to wordsprint.com. There's a tab to click for a free consultation. And I find that many charities have donors, but they don't have programs to keep the donors informed. So wordsprint.com, go there, get a consultation, see how you can maintain and build those people that support you as donors, and it's so key to your charity. So as we wrap up here in this really good story that you guys have shared, Mitzi, what's your closing thought for our listeners?
I guess I would like for everyone to challenge themselves when they see a homeless person or someone who looks different than them on the street or on the bus or in your community. Don't make an assumption that you know anything about that person. They may have a PhD. They may be, like my son, have a degree in economics. Or Mark, who's brilliant. Just extend compassion. Look them in the eyes as a fellow traveler who's sometimes on a challenging path, but please offer some compassion. That would be my thought. It's something that has changed in me since Journey's experience, and I would love to see more of it in the community.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
So if you could think of one person in your life who is struggling now or who has struggled in the past, I would say just reach out to them and give them the URL and say, saw this podcast, this Facebook Live, and it looked interesting, and let them know that it exists. Because one of the things that I experienced early on is people don't know how to talk to people who are going through a challenge. And we want to change that. We want to give them those tools. So whether it's a mother or a father or a son or a daughter or a friend or spouse, what is it that we can do to really, support? So if you can, this one thing you can do is let them know that you're thinking about them. So whether it's sending them the journeysdream.org site or Facebook page, that's not the point. The point is let them know you're thinking about them and send them things that could be constructive, that could really help them. If they deny that they are able to be helped, they may not like it, but you know what? Someday they'll remember it, because all people can find a path to health and well-being. And allow yourself to be in the face of those experiences. Be the presence of love, be that which we're all called to be. So if someone does come at you and say, well, hey, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have done this, and they're triggered, recognize that's going on inside them, but do it from love. Not because you want to heal them or get them better, but do it from love that, hey, as you think about them, think about what it is you could do to really be of service.
Awesome words. Russell, thanks for being here. It's such a consistent supporter. Mitzi, Mark, thank you for sharing your story. It's been powerful indeed.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.